I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast, Pop Culture Pasta. Hey Dave, I'm thinking about doing another revolution. Do you want to join up? I might need some help with organising the pamphlets though.
Pop Culture Pastor.
And so I'm just saying that if the Empire would have been led by Steve Jobs instead of the Emperor Palpatine, Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, none of that would have ever happened, because the whole saga comes down to the fact that they couldn't change their USB ports so that an old 30-year-old droid like R2-D2 couldn't stop tapping into their system. Steve Jobs would have had that stuff nipped in the bud immediately. I mean, Apple's always changing theirs so that other people can't make money off of their connections. But yet R2-D2, who because of the prequels we know is at least 30 years old.
Yeah.
How fast is technology? Like 30-year-old technology in our world is like
obsolete.
Stone Age. How fast does technology move in the Star Wars universe? Should be much faster.
Should be. Or maybe they have reached like the end of advancement.
So I've decided whoever their contractor was to build the Death Stars and all that, unforgivable sin of not updating the ports for data that R2-D2 could just randomly plug into and do whatever he wanted.
I mean, just think, like computer games, you had the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. 30 years, man. R2-D2 is 30 years old and he's plugging into the Death Star like, just present day technology.
Yeah.
Made by an evil empire.
Must be at, like, they've already advanced so much that there's minimal room to advance.
Something's wrong. You take that out of the equation, they're in trouble. They don't make it out of episode 4 of New Hope.
Yeah.
They're flattened in a trash compactor.
Rest in peace.
Rest in flatness. Hey, hello, and how are you? Welcome to Pop Culture Pastor, the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm Dave. Cody's here.
I am.
And we're here to talk about everything pop culture that we can fit into, and we got a lot to fit in today. I'm just gonna be honest with you off the front. We got a lot to fit in here.
Okay.
So let's just get started with our news. And there's a lot of news, and because the Super Bowl happened. And I'm going to say something. I'm going to make a declaration. The Super Bowl is better than Comic-Con. Change my mind.
I'll disagree.
The Super Bowl has way more releases. Like all those trailers we got.
The best trailers happen at Comic-Con.
Yeah, but not every year. Some of them are lame. Some years, and then the COVID years where it's been kind of even more lame.
And then like you get the announcement of, oh, we're making like these 30 films over the next 3 years.
Okay, well, how about this? Since the last couple Comic-Cons have been lame because of COVID, are we seeing a shift to where more of these huge trailers will come out at the Super Bowl rather than like hoping for an event that may or may not be, online?
I mean, short term, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. The Super Bowl was amazing with everything we got to see. I mean, if we're just going down the list, we got to see the new Jurassic World trailer.
Loosely based on my real life story.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll go on. I mean, I live a block away from you. I had no idea that your life was so adventurous.
Yes.
With you and Chris Pratt and Dr. Alan Grant.
And Bryce Dallas Howard.
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Whose name I can't remember. Dr. Ian Malcolm.
Yeah, I was going to say his name's Ian.
Well, what do we think about that movie?
I'm going to watch it.
We're now officially in the Lost World segment of our reboot, sort of reboot, in our Jurassic World reboot-ish type thing. I don't even know what you call this.
Yeah.
Because the first one, Jurassic World, the first Jurassic World, there's hardly many connections drawn. I mean, there's a couple.
Yeah, they talk about like the previous island and that they have updated everything so it's better and more affordable.
So technically it's a sequel, but you felt like it was more of a reboot. But now with this trailer, we see all the people from the original.
Yeah.
With this people we've grown to love in this new trilogy. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, I wasn't that enamored with the last movie. In fact, I saw it in the theater, never saw it again. I'm going to have to rewatch it now.
My wife cried at the last one.
Of course she did. I mean,
a dinosaur got left on the island, and it was very sad as it was dying.
Here is where this gets difficult for me. I find that I'm only interested in the Jurassic Park structure of the story as it pertains to people going to the island and it being there. Mm-hmm. And it seems like you take these movies far enough, it always ends up at the same place where dinosaurs have made it to the real world.
Yeah.
And now I don't know if I'm interested. However, the caveat here is I saw the trailer, I saw the people in it, and I thought, okay, you get my money. I'm going to go see it, but I'm still unsure.
So, like, there's some weirdos out there, and I'll label them weirdos. This one's on me.
That are totally in.
Loved the second Jurassic Park movie. Oh, it's like the worst one in my opinion.
Absolutely. Totally 100% agree.
And like if you look at the cast, there's some big names. I mean, you have Jeff Goldblum, Vince Vaughn's in it.
But that was Vince Vaughn right when he was blowing up too.
Yeah. So young Vince Vaughn. But like the issue is like a T-Rex gets in San Diego. Mm-hmm. And that's ridiculous to me. Too far-fetched, but
this one's going farther, I think.
It's going way farther, and I'm here for it.
Okay.
Like, so far, like, I didn't feel there was a huge drop-off with Jurassic World from Jurassic World 1 to 2.
Yeah.
And so maybe the third one will be a plateau, and it'll be, like, good, and it'll be worth going to the movies for, and then I'll feel happy.
I think I'm wearing the same place on this one. Let's talk about Lord of the Rings. Also a trailer debuted in the Super Bowl. We got our first look at the Amazon Prime series, which they've spent the GNP of Ghana on. Probably more than that. I'm guessing actually they've spent what we spend on defense in the United States of America on this series. I'm going to tell you, Cody, this is either going to be the best thing ever or it's going to permanently murder my inner child. It'll be gone. It's going to do one or the other.
This is the reason why Amazon's hiking up their prices. Yeah, I'm ready for it. I'll give it a chance to break my heart.
We're starting to see, like, there's been so much mystery around it. We just really didn't know where it was going to go. Now it's pretty clear where we're going is the origin story of Sauron, basically. You're going to get how the rings get made. Oh, man. And I'm so in. And I just want it to be good. And I'm very, very hopeful. I love Lord of the Rings. Love it. And I'm just very hopeful they don't mess this up.
May the force be with us.
Let's see. We also saw the trailer for Nope, Jordan Peele's next movie about a dangerous cloud. There's dangerous clouds in my house. I have 4 kids, but those are fart clouds.
I feel it's an acronym.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Are you saying that as a theory or you read that somewhere?
I'm going with a theory, but I read it from a couple different people. And so
Nocturnal. Okay, you're gonna have to help me out. I don't know. Extraterrestrials, the last word, right? The last
yes. Well, now I gotta find. I wasn't ready for it.
It looks okay. So it has all the hallmarks of Jordan Peele. Everything we've grown to love already in such a short time about Jordan Peele. All the hallmarks of his kind of tense scary kind of delivery of his movies. And I'm in. I'm here for it. It looks amazing and weird. And I think the thing that I love about Jordan Peele is it's gloriously weird. Like, he doesn't mind it being super weird.
Yeah.
Like the last movie, Us, so gloriously weird.
I really loved Us.
Mm-hmm. I love Us too. Oh, you meant okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was really good in theaters, and I didn't know where it was going to go. And then it just blew my mind. And now I finally thought of the person who shared the tweet. And so now I'm finally.
No, you're still looking for it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're getting ready. We'll get ready to discuss the Marvel debuts in the Super Bowl. Moon Knight just looks fantastic. I'm so excited for Moon Knight. Moon Knight, of course, the story of a superhero who has dissociative identity disorder. And I still think Marvel's pulling a fast one. I think all the versions of the main character we see without the mask are not his main identity. I think his main identity will be a regular American accented speaker. And I think what we're seeing is kind of a dodge. It's a hustle. Marvel likes to do that sort of thing.
That they do.
So did you find what this person? Okay, we'll just move on.
I will randomly say it in this, but like right now my Twitter is buffering like crazy.
We're buffering. Let's talk about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, this was the big one. This was the big trailer that debuted in the Super Bowl that everybody is talking about. I think it's not that anything in here is surprising to us. I think everyone intrinsically knew after Spider-Man No Way Home that this movie, Multiverse of Madness, was just going to be bonkers. All the cameos. This is the one that we've been waiting for basically since the end of Loki, I would say.
Yeah.
This is what this has all been leading to. They've clearly got a wildly broad and amazing story to tell. There's lots of things in the trailer that it make it clear that Doctor Strange is going to appear before some like version of the Illuminati, where if you're a comic book reader, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not a comic book reader, the Illuminati was like this secret cabal of all the smartest, most advanced, intelligent heroes in the Marvel universe. Guys like Reed Richards, guys like the Submariner, Namor is sometimes in the Illuminati. Black Panther sometimes in the Illuminati, and of course the voice we hear in the trailer of Professor X, played by Patrick Stewart. The Patrick Stewart
Sir
Professor X.
Patrick Stewart to you.
Well, not to be, because I'm not British, but
I'm naming it and claiming it for him.
You're like, he did not spend 6 years in knighthood school for you to call him Patrick.
Yeah.
He is Sir Patrick Stewart. I don't know the rules.
Always.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to offend Patrick. Pat.
Sir Pat to you.
I'm gonna call him. Can I call you Pat? When I talk to him next time, I'll ask him.
I mean, he voiced someone in the video game Oblivion, so I will forever refer to him as Sir Patrick Stewart.
Okay.
And I did find my tweet finally.
Oh, okay. What does NOPE stand for?
Okay, so Jackie Hill Perry suggested not on planet Earth, and then my dear friend Antoine Bradford, not of planet Earth, because it definitely looks like there's some weird alien thing going on.
Yeah. Those are both good guesses. Both Christian celebrities.
Yes.
Nice pull.
Yeah. No one saw that.
Those are smart. Those are good guesses.
Those are.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here for it. Also in the Doctor Strange trailer, we see America Chavez, another new character. We see the Scarlet Witch. We see two Scarlet Witches.
Which
many Doctor Stranges.
I am so here for the Scarlet Witch. Like, I've been waiting for this moment.
Yeah. And it just looks amazing. They actually showed a lot more than I thought they ever would. The Patrick Stewart reveal alone When I saw that during the Super Bowl, I was like, wow. I mean, this is from the same people that did not put a trailer out with Toby and Andrew Garfield in it.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of knew that they were in it, but they refused to do it. And now they just put this reveal out there. They're like, oh, by the way, here's Professor X.
What if this is not even remotely close to anything significant?
Well, I don't know that it's not significant. I think what you need to be prepared for is this is not the Professor X you saw in the Sony movies. This is an alternate. All these guys are going to be alternate reality folks. So there's all kinds of rumors that there's a different Iron Man on this Illuminati, maybe played by Tom Cruise.
Thomas Cruise.
The Iron Man that maybe succeeded in his efforts to put a suit of armor around the world and defeated Thanos and has infinity gems in his possession, like a very powerful Iron Man. So like there's all sorts of kind of wild rumors out there.
Are infinity gems even important anymore?
Yes. Yeah, as long as you're not in the TVA or outside of time, right?
Yeah. Okay.
It's that the whole point, the whole reason they're paperweights to TVA is because they're not in the actual universe, right? Isn't that what we think?
The juxtaposition of it all, yeah.
What else do we see? Is there anything I'm missing? We see several versions of Doctor Strange, Defender Strange, Evil Strange, Zombie Strange.
Did I read that if you had the subtitles on, one of the Stranges was Sorcerer Supreme?
Well, okay, so the subtitles revealed that the Strange that says that we've already seen is not the What If Strange. It's not Sorcerer Supreme Strange. It just says Evil Strange. Or no, it doesn't say, it's not evil. I can't remember, but it seems to indicate it's not the Doctor Strange from the What If show, which that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same guy, but yeah, it looks amazing. They also released a poster with like tons of Easter eggs in the poster because there's like shattering glass, which seems to represent the multiverse. And in the little panes of glass people are finding, if you expand and get real close, you can see Captain Carter's shield in one of them. Some people think there's one with Deadpool in it. So lots of cool stuff going on there. Let's move to more newsy news in the pop culture world. Have you been following this Bob Saget thing?
Yeah.
A Florida judge has temporarily blocked the release of additional documents related to Bob Saget's death, ruling that his family has a clear legal right or interest in protecting the records. So Bob Saget's wife, Kelly Rizzo, and his 3 daughters filed a lawsuit against Orange County Sheriff John Mina and the District 9 Medical Examiner's Office to keep the late actor and comedian's medical records private. According to court documents obtained by People, Saget's family said that the release of further details about his death last month would cause irreparable harm in the form of extreme mental pain, anguish, and emotional distress, and that no legitimate public interest would be served by the release of the records to the public. And the judge agrees. So he's temporarily blocked him.
Yeah.
Here's what's strange. This comes after TMZ or someone got a hold of some of the coroner's reports. Mm-hmm. These coroner reports seem to confirm the cause of death was he had hit his head, which is weird because the reports of how Bob Saget was found was that he was lying on his back in his bed with his hands folded on his chest like he just fell asleep.
Yeah.
But then they found this head injury like he'd hit his head, and they thought then was, oh man, he must have had an accident and hit his head and then laid down in bed and not realized how serious it was. Well, that's fine, but then this coroner report got leaked out, and all of a sudden you had several people on the internet who claiming to be people who would know, medical examiners, saying, oh, these injuries are not conducive of an accident. This was blunt trauma to the head that was given. Somebody attacked him.
Oh, yeah.
Several people online, and this is what has prompted this move by the family, which the strange thing now is like, well, okay, because you never know. First of all, are these real people online? Are they really medical examiners? Or are they armchair medical examiners, right?
Yeah.
And if they are, I don't know. I guess, we're never going to know, and maybe we shouldn't have to know unless there's a criminal thing going here, which there doesn't appear to be. But several people are wondering why there's not.
Yeah. I mean, if the sheriff's department doesn't see fit to have a criminal investigation, then I'm good with not having all the details, because at times I feel that we get so enamored with the cult of celebrity and personality that we just keep feeding off of all these little details, and it's our gossip that we deem okay because they're public figures and everything should be public about them, kind of in our mindset. But no. Well,
I agree with you, of course. And I think that this move by the family kind of proves that maybe there's nothing here.
Yeah.
That what is what is. As it stands, official cause of death, head trauma due to an unwitnessed fall backwards that resulted in skull fractures. No drugs or alcohol involved. And even at the very least, what we know is it's tragic.
Yeah.
Just tragic and sad. And he's got 3 children and a wife that he leaves behind. So at the end of the day, not important. There's just a lot going on with it,
Yeah, because like when he first died, several people said, oh, maybe it was a heart attack. And then head trauma. And then we have stopped all records.
Yeah. Also in the tragic department, the family of cinematographer Helena Hutchins has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Alec Baldwin and other crew members of the movie Rust following her death on the New Mexico set 4 months ago. So we kind of wondered back when this happened where all this was going to land, and where it is landing right now is the husband, Matthew Hutchins, filing a complaint on behalf of himself and their 9-year-old son, Andros, claiming Baldwin recklessly shot and killed Helena Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust, alleging that Baldwin and others responsible for the safety on set led to Hutchins' senseless and tragic death. The complaint goes on to read that Helena deserved to live. This all comes from People magazine, by the way. The defendants had the power to prevent her death if they only held sacrosanct their duty to protect the safety of every individual on set, where firearms were present instead of cutting corners on safety procedures, where human lives were at stake, rushing to stay on schedule, ignoring numerous complaints of safety violations. I think the bottom line here is we knew this was eventually going to happen. Someone was this wasn't one of those, it's just a tragic accident.
Yeah.
Like, I think we had enough information to know that this was going to come down to exactly what he just said in the complaint. That this did come down to whether it was because Hollywood tries to work fast, and that maybe this is a problem across Hollywood.
Yeah.
That this was bound to happen sooner or later. And I think that makes it, of course, even more tragic. And again, you have all of this, of course, legal things going on. And the important thing to remember is 9-year-old son, Andros, now growing up without a mom.
Yeah.
Because of a movie. That's the thing. It's like, I love pop culture, but why are we using real guns? Is that necessary?
No. And this is a huge setback for the family, and this is an adverse childhood experience for this kid, and it's a significant thing. And at the end of the day, like everyone involved with this particular film, whether it ever gets completed or not, they have to live with the fact that they were a part of something that forever altered at least a family, and will probably alter them in some way or another. So
yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, it's just tragic. And it's tragic that it's just tragic all the way around, because you understand that even though there's a lawsuit, it's not like Alec Baldwin wanted to kill her. Like, you understand that finding responsibility doesn't mean necessarily that these are evil people who wanted this to happen. It's just tragic. And then I think it keeps leading me back to this same place of like, man, we have all these special effects, this wizardry. I mean, we can make people on the screen that haven't been that way. I mean, from the past, that look like them, sound like them, walk like them. And we don't even need the actor anymore. And you're telling me we can't figure out something where we're not using real guns with live rounds?
I also wonder besides the nostalgia factor, if you're getting a little bit of machismo.
Well, right. So someone may say, like, if you're going this direction, someone may say, well, it helps the actor. Well, if the actor is so good, then they don't need that.
No. Like, I should be able to get you one of those cap guns from Walmart that shoot the paper in, like, you get the smell. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. But yeah, again, another just tragic thing. And I'm sure that some sort of justice will be done there. I imagine there'll be a lot of money changing hands. And that young Andros, not that it gives him back anything that he's lost, but will at least have his things in his life paid for, that his mom would have, with her work. But just sad all the way around. Let's talk about something that's a little bit more lighthearted. Something I didn't even know was going to happen. But did you know they're making another Fletch movie? Confess Fletch, starring John Hamm as Erwin M. Fletcher, taking on the Chevy Chase role. And after more than 30 years, with Erwin Fletch coming back to the big screen, played by John Hamm, I gotta say, I would have been unsure about most people. Chevy Chase is Chevy Chase. He's one of those guys that, like, I don't know if you can't recreate that, but if there's someone that I think that can pull off a different version of Fletch that I would like, that I'd be interested in, it might be John Hamm. I really like him.
Yeah. I feel both of them are, besides tall individuals, are they kind of have a dry delivery. Mm-hmm. And I think it works.
Yeah, Chevy Chase was so dry, especially the Fletch character, where the way he delivered everything. I mean, I can't help but think of it and just laugh right now. Even Fletch 2, Fletch Lives, which was not great. But, like, remember he goes to jail and the guy's like, bend over. And he's like, Ben, nice to meet you, Ben. Victor Hugo. I mean, it just rolls out of him. And the way he can just play it straight, even though, the character across from him is about to do terrible things to him.
Yeah.
It's just great.
I always go to, like, his dream sequence where he's a Los Angeles Laker. And they have him listed at 6'4", but with the hair 6'8".
6'8" with the afro. Yeah, it's wonderful. Those movies, I loved the Fletch movies growing up. Even the second one, which is not good, but does feature a wildly terrible mega church televangelist guy. It's just great. It's good stuff. But they're coming back. Also, John Slattery, who was on Mad Men with John Hamm. Also the cast includes Marcia Gay Harden, Kyle MacLachlan, The Daily Show's Roy Wood Jr. I don't know who that is, but yeah, I am hopeful about the new Fletch movie.
I will watch it unless the reviews are all, this is trash. And then I will let someone else watch it that I trust their opinion.
Following its December premiere, 1883 became Paramount Plus's most watched original series, even more than what it spun off of, Yellowstone.
Take that, Yellowstone. I still need to watch the most recent episode.
Totally earned, by the way. 1883 is great.
Yeah.
The 1883, and it's made great by the people in it. I've talked a lot about how impressed I am with Tim McGraw. Faith Hill does just enough to not bring it down. I think she's probably the weakest link on the show, but I don't think she's bad. I just think like she's not on screen a whole lot. She doesn't have a lot to say, which I think is probably by design.
Yeah.
Because she's not, it's fair to say she's not an actress. She hasn't been in a lot of things. But Sam Elliott being in this show, I mean, Cody, he delivered this soliloquy. Basically, it's a soliloquy. He's talking to the main character, Elsa, who is the daughter of the two we just mentioned. Cody, Sam Elliott is a national treasure and should be protected at all costs. The look on his face can bring me to tears. Like he can convey emotion with just the what he's doing with his face and with his body. And there's like I am almost certain that I could be dying, but if Sam Elliott was there whispering in my ear, I would make a peaceful transition to see Jesus. Like Sam Elliott's amazing.
He definitely steals any screen time that he's in. Like he takes the focus from everyone else that's in it. Although the guy that plays Thomas, LaMonica Garrett, he does a great job being the second in command underneath Sam Elliott.
He's also very good. Yeah. They've done a really good job with that show. And as ridiculous as Yellowstone has gotten, where the characters have kind of become caricatures,
yes.
This show, maybe it's because it's grounded in the Old West. Like they can't really get into the situations that the Duttons get into in present day Yellowstone. But maybe it's because it's grounded in the time period. But it's just, I think it's a wonderful show driven by these wonderful acting performances in it. And it got picked up for a next season. And the reason I tell you that is because something else got picked up for a brand new order. Another spinoff of Yellowstone. This one titled 1932. Now, let me tell you why I'm not as excited for this.
You're not here for a Great Depression ranch story?
I mean, I think you're missing the point of why 1883 is good, Paramount Plus. I think you're missing that it's not because it's this offshoot of Yellowstone. Like, I think this show stands on its own. These characters, I don't even care if their last name is Dutton.
Yeah.
I don't care about Yellowstone as it's connected to this. I'm sold on this story, and I just feel like maybe 1932 is not going to be nearly as good.
Like, I'm going to give it a chance.
Oh, of course I will. They've earned that. I think Yellowstone was good for the first couple seasons especially, and then it's gotten kind of out of hand, in my opinion. But 1883 has been beyond my wildest expectations. I think it's an excellent show.
Yes. I thoroughly enjoy 1883 and look forward to its continuation.
In other news, Cody's favorite actor, John Cena. Peacemaker got picked up for a season 2.
Yes.
And it's almost to the point where all the episodes have come out because I've decided what I'm going to do is binge it. I don't want to watch it a week at a time.
When we are recording this, we are just maybe 6 hours away from it dropping the last episode.
Okay. It's coming out as we're recording. This is coming out tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
All right. And Cody's hype.
I am tempted to stay up till 2 a.m. our time to watch it.
Cody is our resident DC Comics honk. He goes to bat for DC. That's his realm. I'm okay with DC. I don't not want to see DC stuff, but I'm just not as into it as I am Marvel. And that comes from me being very young. I liked Marvel Comics more growing up.
Batman came out the year I was born.
Right.
So.
And there's a lot of that usually is up to timing, and we're going to find that out later when we talk about our sports movies. But yeah. But the reason I bring up John Cena is he's blowing up. Landed a major role in an upcoming Warner Brothers Looney Tunes project, a movie, Coyote versus Acme.
Okay.
He is not playing either Wile E. Coyote or the Roadrunner. Instead, Cena will portray a high-powered lawyer a la Space Jam in the hybrid live-action animated feature.
I'll watch it.
Oh, he could pull it off.
Yeah.
He's perfect for that sort of thing.
I'm not going to lie. He actually did pretty good in Fast and Furious 9. I didn't want to watch Fast and Furious 9 because I'm anti-Fast and Furious, but he did great in it. He did great in Suicide Squad. He is killing it in Peacemaker.
Because he was a wrestler. What you want to be like is, no, come on. It's a flash in the pan. No, I don't think we're past that. He's real. He's funny. He's got charisma. And he's going to have a long career. He's just fun to watch in a lot of ways. And I think it's a testament to the pro wrestling gig. Because now you've got The Rock and John Cena out here being successful. And it just goes to show you that, hey, that's not an accident. They were both wildly popular in the WWE, and that's because WWE is a drama. It's an unfolding you have to act. And the ones who are popular are the ones who can grab onto those personas and really live them out on camera.
Vacation Friends was also funny.
Yes. Oh, man. Totally vulgar, though.
Yeah. I do not recommend you watch it, but it was funny.
All right, that's all the news we have. It's time for us to go out into the lobby, Cody. We're heading for the lobby to answer listener questions. It's our new segment here on Pop Culture Pastor. We'll meet you out in the lobby in just a second. In the lobby, we're getting our popcorn, nachos. I'm a big nachos guy. We come out to the lobby to get ourselves a snack and to answer your listener questions. That's what we do here. Let's start off with this one. Scott Patrick Dillon, who's asked us a question every week. He's been very consistent.
Thank you. Thank
you, Scott. You're a true and loyal listener and occasional guest host.
Friend of the show, Scott Patrick Dillon. We love you, buddy. He asks, what is your dream vehicle from pop culture, sci-fi, etc., whatever? Your dream vehicle. Kit.
I mean, Kit is the obvious answer, right?
Otherwise,
I'm tempted to say the DeLorean, though.
Yeah.
1.21 gigawatts.
I also would go with,
we were in Wichita and I saw someone driving an old DeLorean, looks just like those old school DeLoreans. I was like, wow, that's awesome. If he was dressed up as Doc Brown, it'd be even more amazing, but he wasn't.
So I guess you could get Bumblebee from the Transformers.
Yeah, another good selection. A sentient vehicle. But Kit was sentient.
Yeah. If I could not get a sentient vehicle, it would be Magnum PI's Ferrari.
If I have Kit, does it come with the voice of the dude from
Mr. Feeney?
Mr. Feeney, yeah. Because I think that's what made Kit. Michael. Why are you calling me Michael? My name's Dave. Get it right, man. Come on, Mr. Feeney. You got to roll with this. Turbo boost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kit has to be it. Does it come with the semi that Kit rides around in the back of and then comes out the back when you really need him? Because that would be awesome too.
Yeah.
He's bulletproof.
You know what else is bulletproof? Walker Texas Rangers truck.
Is it really?
In the later seasons, like everyone and their mom is shooting Uzis at it and rocket launchers, and not a single scratch.
If I had a nickel for every time someone was firing an Uzi at Chuck Norris. Oh, man. Yeah, I think that's our answer. I think Kit is definitely the way we got to go with this. And there's really no discussion to be had. I mean, can we go with like, Slave One or whatever it's called now? Can we go with spaceships? That seems weird.
Yeah.
The Millennium Falcon.
Like,
would you rather have Slave One or the Millennium Falcon?
Falcon.
Yeah.
Like, maybe the TARDIS, if now we're including space and time travel, then yeah.
Yeah, I never thought of that. No, not the family truckster from National Lampoon's Vacation. I kind of always wanted the family truckster. Looked like a tank.
The Partridge Family bus.
The wood paneling. I think we had a couple station wagons like that.
Never did.
The next question comes to us from Kyle Kessinger.
Okay.
Up there in Lawrence. He says, this question goes back to podcast episode 1. Long-time listener.
Yeah. We're going back in time.
And he says, it's actually to the very first thing that was said on episode 1. Dave compared the new podcast to Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. To which Cody said, never seen it.
Yes.
Star Trek and pop culture go hand in hand, Kyle says.
Typically.
Will Star Trek get any love in your podcast? And most importantly, will Cody watch any of it? FYI, there are over 800 episodes, 13 motion pictures across the Star Trek universe. Cody,
okay.
Will you would you like to catch up on some Star Trek?
I have seen 2 of the movies.
Which two?
For sure.
Which two?
Star Trek 2009.
What's that? Oh, the one with the new cast?
Yeah.
Trash.
And then Star Trek Into Darkness.
So you've only seen the 2 new ones?
2 of the 3. I didn't watch the third one.
Oh, there was a third one.
Yeah.
The third one was actually better than the second one.
Oh, I would hope. The second one left a bitter taste in my mouth.
How could it leave a bitter taste in your mouth? You were new to the subject.
I'm not new to the subject. I know Star Trek.
Yeah, but you've never seen Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan.
I'm just saying Star Trek.
We've got to go back and watch the originals.
There are people that love Star Trek and hate Star Wars. There are people that love Star Wars and don't care that much about Star Trek, and I fall into the second
I
category.
will stick up for you in this regard. See, Kyle, I know Kyle, and he's only a couple years younger than me. And the problem with Cody is when he grows up is this weird time frame where Star Trek The Next Generation, the TV show, is done. Mm-hmm. They're making some movies, but those movies, you would not be into those Star Trek Next Generation movies unless you watched the series. I think it's fair to say that.
And I grew up in a household that was not very sci-fi-y. And so, like, anything science fiction, it's all my own seeking out.
Yeah. So he grows up in that weird limbo of Star Trek. See, so I'm growing up, like, I can remember sneaking out of Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, and sneaking into Gremlins. Because I think Gremlins was rated R, maybe. I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. I just remember that my grandma dropped me off to watch while she shopped in the mall. It was when the theaters were in the mall, and she dropped me off. And don't get all upset. We did that in the 80s. People did that all the time. We left kids alone all the time.
Yes.
And I was supposed to be watching Star Trek 3 Search for Spock, which I kind of wanted to see, but I wanted to see Gremlins more. And I think that was the right choice, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I was scared the pants off me. But
now, I will say the cast of Star Trek Next Generation, great. I've seen a handful of episodes, but I can't say that I've watched the whole season or the whole series. Now, I have seen several like Star Trek esque shows because Nickelodeon, when I was growing up, had a show called Space Cases. It was kind of like Star Trek, but it was like a kid's version. Yeah. And so, I'm sorry.
The hard part about going back to rewatch Star Trek: The Next Generation, the TV series now, would be that TV was made in a different way. So if you're used to TV now, where so everything's streaming, and if they have enough for 8 episodes, they make 8 episodes. If they have enough for 12 episodes, they make 12 episodes. There's not as much fat to trim. Mm-hmm. Whereas Star Trek: The Next Generation, you'd have a season of like 20, 22 episodes or whatever. And the way TV worked back then is there was a running story going on, but there was many of these what we call Freak of the Week episodes, which is a term that became popular from the TV show Smallville.
Yes,
where there's a story about young Clark Kent going on and his lovelorn life crushing over Lana Lang. But most weeks there were these standalone stories where he's having to deal with this problem. And Star Trek: The Next Generation, I recently tried to go back and watch it. It's kind of the same way, especially in the first couple seasons. You're just getting these like singular episodes with singular problems. And that's not really the way we like our TV today. Think about when they do that with Marvel. People get hot. People get mad.
Yeah.
Well, what does that have to do with the larger story? You know? And so it's like you have to appreciate that to go back and watch it.
Yeah. Which I watch Titans on HBO Max, and they kind of do that formula.
Freak of the Week?
Yeah. And while trying to play out a larger Titan story by the end of it. But so I may have to give The Next Generation a run through, or at least a start.
Yeah. He's going to give it a shot. We'll try and give it a shot. I would definitely recommend anybody going back and trying to watch the original Star Trek movies. So Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, which is a great science fiction movie. Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. Star Trek IV, which is an underrated classic, The Voyage Home. That's the one with the humpback whales. They travel back in time to the 1980s and there's some great scenes in that movie. Star Trek V, The Final Frontier.
That is a Star Trek movie. I know that
must have been pretty forgettable because I do not remember exactly.
The Final Frontier.
The Final Frontier, yeah. And then Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, which I also enjoyed. Okay. And then it gets into the Next Generation era of movies. But yeah, I think they're definitely still watchable. And Star Trek, I've talked about this before, it's a more cerebral science fiction viewing than Star Wars. It's a lot more political. There's politics. You're dealing more with how we relate to each other, but in the context of humans and aliens, right?
Yes.
And it gets much more into that sort of thing, which is interesting.
I apologize.
You don't have to apologize. But it's okay. I'll defend you. He probably doesn't know that you're younger than me.
By a few moons.
Yeah. Just a few. All right. When we get back, we're going to take another little break here. When we get back, we move on to our main subject. In honor of the Olympics, who's on our sports movie medal stand?
Yeah.
The bronze medal, the silver medal, the gold medal, our favorite sports movies of all time coming up. All right, welcome back, Pop Culture Pastor Podcast. It's time for our version of the Olympics. Hit the music. I don't know if we're gonna have any music. That's up to our producer Matt.
Yeah,
Matt's a good dude, and if he does it, he can. This is the part where his music will be much better.
I hope.
One can only hope. Please stop making those noises. All right. We need to talk about our favorite sports movies of all time. But in order to get there, I imagine your list was long as mine was too. This was the hardest thing to pick 3, and I really had to go my favorites. So let me just go over some of the honorable mentions I have.
Okay.
That didn't make my medal stand, but are still worth mentioning. Rudy is a fantastic movie. In fact, I would venture to say that Rudy probably makes my medal stand if in the years since the making of that movie, we didn't find out that most of this quote unquote true story was not, in fact, as true as they said.
I believe every single bit of it happened. I don't care what Joe Montana says or thinks.
You listen here, Joe. It wasn't just Joe. Several people on the team were like, yeah, that didn't happen. But it doesn't change what happened. What happened was the crux of the story is essentially true, and that is that Rudy Rudiger, a young guy who was really small, had no athletic talent, hangs on with the best college football team in the country for a couple years and makes the field on the last play of the game. And it has this just overarching message that none of our dreams are out of reach. None of our dreams are out of reach, that you can make things happen. As Walter Sobchak quotes Theodore Herzl in The Big Lebowski, if you will it, it is no dream. That was a quote that was quoting some other quote.
Yes.
But the theme of that movie is that you can will your dreams to come true. And then the best part about that movie is the realization that it wasn't about the dream being realized at all. It was about that what you acquired along the way, in a sense, that you were capable of doing these things. Rudy Rudiger had so much confidence and learned so much on the way that he got convicted of fraud in securities fraud in 2011.
Oh, poor Rudy.
Yeah, the story is not glorious.
/ his movie evidently is fraud.
The luster has worn off the shine of the movie over the years, thanks to the real life actions of Rudy. However, Sean Astin's wonderful in that movie.
It prepared him to help deliver a ring.
Do you have any honorable mentions yourself?
Is that your only honorable mention?
No, I have a whole bunch more that fall into a specific category. You want me to go ahead and go into that?
Sure, why not?
Oh yeah, we got plenty of time. So in order to narrow this down, I had to decide, because there's tons of sports movies that I call sports movies that I love. Dearly love. And so to get to a top 3 was very hard. But then, so I decided to say, okay, I'm only going to consider them if I believe they're truly a movie about sports.
Yeah.
Okay. So I disqualified The Sandlot because I believe that it's not really a sports movie, that it's a movie about childhood friendships.
Okay.
Which, I don't care. This is just how I had to do it. To narrow this down. I wouldn't argue against anybody that said it was a sports movie because there's a lot of sports in it. A lot of baseball.
A ton of baseball.
A lot of kissing Wendy Peppercorn. Field of Dreams is one of my favorite movies of all time that I've talked about on this podcast before. I decided that I can't classify it as a sports movie. It's a movie about fathers and sons.
Okay.
When We Were Kings, that I just talked about a couple weeks ago. A wonderful documentary about the Rumble in the Jungle. It literally is about a sporting event.
Mm-hmm.
But if you watch it, you understand that this movie is not about the Rumble in the Jungle. It's about the indomitable spirit of Muhammad Ali. That there's scenes in this where he's jogging across the African countryside and kids are following behind him running. And they're chanting, Ali, Boumaye. It's just, and he's talking to them in that way that Ali would talk, kind of this braggadocious, there's this charisma about him that just few people can equal. And you understand that this is a movie it's a wonderful movie about this event, but it's about Muhammad Ali. And I love it. I love everything about it. Caddyshack is a stoner comedy that takes place in and around a golf course. Big Lebowski happens a lot in and around a bowling alley. Happy Gilmore, an absurdist comedy about the lengths we go to for love. I've decided that's what that movie's about. Happy Gilmore does he plays a sport he doesn't want to, but he's good at for the love of his grandmother. Shooter McGavin even is motivated by his love of what he thinks the game should be, right? The bad guy. That's a movie about how the lengths we go to for love. Jerry Maguire, I had to disqualify.
Show me the money.
Because even though the whole movie takes place around sports and being a sports agent, Jerry Maguire is a commentary of the loss of the innocence of sports, the love of the game. Like that's as it's being told across this romantic story between Tom Cruise and Renee Zellweger. The backdrop of this story is this idea that he's also saying that sports has changed into something about greed and capitalistic, everything wrong with capitalism, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, a movie we've seen very recently, American Underdog, which I loved.
Yeah.
I love American Underdog. And it's the story of Kurt Warner, a Hall of Fame quarterback. But I dare anyone to see that movie and to say that movie is about football, because it's not. It's about our destiny and who God made us to be. That's what that movie's about. In fact, he essentially says that when he proposes to his soon-to-be wife. He says, I thought I was made to be a football player, but I'm actually made to be a husband and a father. And if the football thing never happens, then it never happens.
It's a good list.
Yeah. And that's my list of movies I had to draw a line, say, I love all those movies. Oh, I love them. But they're not in my top 3 sports movies.
That's a good list. So I didn't have like the reason of this isn't not a sports movie. It was just my top 3 either moved me so much that I had to include it, or
a disclaimer. We don't consult. I don't tell Cody how to frame this.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, hey, pick your top 3 sports movies, use whatever criteria you would like.
And also like rewatchability is something that was big on my list.
Absolutely.
And I will say The Big Lebowski did not make my list because I forgot that bowling was even in it. I mean, I know they're always at the bowling alley, but like it didn't dawn on me that's a bowling movie. I could have listed Kingpin too, but I'm again bowling.
Donnie, who loved bowling.
So for my honorable mentions, any of the Mighty Ducks movies.
Oh man, yeah. What is it about those movies about? Let's see. What do we just had to talk about this because of the Super Bowl halftime show, and we didn't talk about this on the pod, but we argued about who gets to claim it.
Yeah,
and I've come to the realization it is Xennials, older millennials, and younger Gen Xers.
Yes,
who really share this, and the Ducks are part of that too. I think.
Oh yeah.
There's just something about those movies. You know, those aren't quality movies when you're watching them. You're like, this is not quality filmmaking.
It is the best of the best.
But there's something about it, man, that we fell in love with.
A movie that definitely made the top 5, but did not make my top 3. Remembered the Titans.
Yeah, I thought long and hard about that one.
Denzel single-handedly should have like gotten all the Oscars.
It's such a good movie, but it's very Bruckheimer-y.
It is.
That's who does it. And I decided it was close to being included, but at the end of the day, I was like, it's more than a movie about sports. Again, I had to make a cut.
Caddyshack was on my list as well. American Underdog, The Waterboy. I go a different Adam Sandler movie.
Yeah. The great thing about both of those, though, The Waterboy and Happy Gilmore, is Sandler's style back then, the absurdist nature of it. was just fun, and it was absurd. Like, you knew this couldn't really happen in sports, but you wanted it to.
Yes. Space Jam Legacy.
Are you serious?
That's the LeBron one, yeah.
It's good. It's good enough for me to watch. I haven't watched.
Like, I'm not going to say it's an all-time great movie, but it's good for a family to watch.
I mean, there's a little part of me that if I watch it, I'm giving a tacit agreement to LeBron being on the same level as Jordan, and I just can't bring myself to do it. I'm being stubborn.
The record books would say you should just go for it by now. And then my last movie, which I had forgot about when I was making my list and like remembered it while you were talking, Simon Birch. So
I'm looking at. I've cocked my head to the side like a dog.
yes,
What's the sport?
baseball, because that's how Ashley Judd meets her demise.
Oh my goodness! I forgot about that. I blacked that out. Thanks. Now I'm reliving it.
One of the most heartbreaking scenes in cinema history, maybe.
Oh man, Simon Birch.
Although I would say it's not a sports movie, but there is a sport, and it does take a decent chunk of the movie.
Yeah.
You could also say it's a nativity movie because they also
Wow. Go on.
because he plays the baby Jesus,
Yeah. All right.
and there's a chunk of the movie that's around that, and so I mean,
Is there some Christ imagery hanging around
yes,
there? Yeah.
so.
I have a movie that I'm going to talk about later. It has some spiritual stuff going on in it that you may not have known, but we're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
No. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I can go first.
Okay. What's your bronze medal winning sports movie?
Okay. And this one, it's way out in left field. It's a baseball movie. Hardball
Hardball.
from 2001. Starring
2001, yeah.
a one Keanu Reeves and a really young Michael B. Jordan is in it.
I did not expect this one. Hardball.
Yes.
Keanu Reeves is a ticket scalper, gambler, and now Little League coach for a ragtag team of kids in one of the toughest parts of Chicago. He's no role model, but his buddy Jimmy won't help him pay off his gambling debts unless Connor coaches Jimmy's corporately sponsored team. Surprising even himself, Connor becomes attached to his players and to their attractive school teacher, played by Diane Lane, and drawn into their tough and sometimes tragic lives. Directed by Brian Robbins, Keanu Reeves, Diane Lane, John Hawkes, D.B. Sweeney, also in this movie, made $44 million at the box office.
Yes.
I remember this movie, but it's been a while.
So I watched this one of my first times at youth group. There was a movie night, and this was the movie that they showed.
What is this rated?
There's definitely language.
I have
in it.
severe misgivings about your youth pastor at the time.
There wasn't a youth pastor.
Oh, okay. Well, and this guy wasn't getting the job. We watched Hardball.
And I mean, they're teen kids watching a movie with a parental figure. So
I don't know about your teens, what you were around, but some of my teens, their parents don't let them watch Disney movies.
well, different times, different places.
Yeah, sure.
So
sure.
this movie, like Keanu, this is where I'm like, okay, he can really act. And there was a deeper story being told, especially about inner city life. And you fall in love with everyone on the baseball team, especially G-Baby. And then there's a tragic death at the end. And
I remember that. Yep.
tears may or may not have flown for a young Cody. So I'm going with that as number 3.
All right. That's a good pick. Keanu Reeves. Man, when we're like all senior citizens, are we looking back at Keanu Reeves as like the Marlon Brando of our time? Just a guy who was like timeless.
Maybe.
Is he better than Brando? Probably better.
Better than Brando at the end.
Well, that's for sure.
That was rough.
My bronze medal winning movie, and especially relevant, it could not be more fitting that we're putting this all in the structure of the Olympics, because my bronze medal winning movie is Miracle. When college coach Herb Brooks, played by Kurt Russell, is hired to helm the 1980 United States men's Olympic hockey team, he brings a unique and brash style to the ice. After assembling a team of hot-headed college all-stars who are humiliated in an early match, Brooks unites his squad against a common foe, the heavily favored Soviet team. As the U.S. squad tries to overcome insurmountable odds and win the gold medal, the team becomes a microcosm for American patriotism during the Cold War. This movie came out in 2004, made $64 million at the box office. I would have thought it made more.
I would have guessed so too. Now, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but when they beat the Russians, that's not the gold medal game.
No, it's actually the semifinal game.
Yeah.
They had to go play Finland after that. But it was such you just have to understand where, the Russians were just dominant. Just nobody was going to beat the Russians in hockey. This is honestly, the movie's called Miracle, and it absolutely earns that title. They call this the Miracle on Ice.
Yes.
It's what the sporting event is commonly referred to, because there's just no reason these college kids, these weren't pro players. They were college kids. And there's just no way on earth they were supposed to beat the mighty Russians. And it was huge. I mean, it's hard to quantify. It's absolutely the biggest upset in sports history. There's nothing bigger. And it's amazing. And the movie captures that pretty well. There's some deep themes going on here that I loved in Miracle. Things I loved about Miracle. This idea that the most talented the talent doesn't always win. That you can win, that your heroes are not always the amazing, flashy individuals. Like, I grew up and Michael Jordan was my hero. And Michael Jordan was the best player in the NBA, maybe the best player of all time, that you can say arguably. That's not what you get here. These dudes are all college stars. But one of the things I love about the end of this movie is they go through all the credits and they tell you where all these guys are. And they're all working class, like they've all gone to these normal Joe jobs, most of them. A couple of them dabbled, hang on in professional hockey for a few years.
None of them were Wayne Gretzky.
No. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful that these guys are a part of one of the greatest moments in sports history, and none of them are Michael Jordan, right? Like, that's the best part. Even the Ducks had Adam Banks, right?
Yeah.
Who was a great hockey player. But in this, you see all these guys who are never going to be all-star hockey players are united into this one moment where they're not the most talented people on the floor, but it shows the power of teamwork and the power of unity. And Herb Brooks, one of the other things I love about this film is the portrayal of Herb Brooks as Kurt Russell, who gives, maybe this is like the ultimate parent parable, right? So Herb Brooks is portrayed as exactly as what if you know anything about this team, as he's remembered, which is he was very aloof, very brutal to these guys. These guys, I mean, the movie shows it great. The unity, because they start off, they're all from these colleges that are rivals. And so they start off, there's a lot of fighting and friction, and eventually they pull together in a way that's unbelievable. But only because they hate Herb Brooks more than they hate each other. And it's all by design. And you find out by the end of it that it's this whole story is a parable on why the best dads are the ones who said, I'm going to be a good dad, not my kid's best friend. Because it's not that Herb Brooks didn't love these guys. And it shows that after they win this big game against the Russians, they show this in the movie so well. He doesn't go out and celebrate with the team. He goes down into the bowels of the stadium by himself, and he just is overcome with emotion, and he just sits and cries and sobs. And you can see like that's the moment that he let out everything, all this emotion he wanted to let out around them, and had to be something else to make this happen. It's a wonderful, wonderful story. And it's legendary. It's a miracle. It's a miracle on ice.
Do you believe in miracles?
Do you believe in miracles? Now, let me tell you something. I'm so glad they used the actual play-by-play by Al Michaels. Do you believe in miracles? Like, it's just the feeling you get. I mean, I was 4 when that game gets played, but I remember that. I remember how big that was. And even though I didn't understand it, I just knew intrinsically how big it was.
Okay.
And I love that movie.
Yeah.
Love it. It's not a perfect movie by any stretch, but it's one of my 3 favorites.
It was on my list of consideration, but it did not make my list of honorable mentions. But I also wasn't alive during that time.
Again, I'm not gonna put you down for any of your choices. What's your silver medalist?
Okay, so number 2. Again, I'm sticking with baseball.
You're an idiot.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding.
It's so weird because like out of the major sports, baseball's not my favorite, and it's probably my least favorite, to be honest.
Interesting.
I mean, I do enjoy baseball, but it's not. I'd rather watch football and basketball.
I share that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on too.
The Sandlot, which you had on your honorable mentions, but you had to cut it.
Yeah.
It is a coming of age story. Takes place over the summer of 1962, and it has quite the list of characters in it. And of course, you have Smalls, who has, like, he just moves to the neighborhood and he's having a rough go of making friends, and baseball's the way to do it. And then he has to go get a baseball because they have hit their last one over the fence.
He's got all this pressure on him.
Tons of pressure.
I identified with this because he's from a broken home.
He is.
So his mom's remarried. He's got a new dad that he's still very awkward.
Dennis Leary.
But you can tell that his character has not had a father influence because he's missing the manly stuff, right?
Yeah.
So he's not a baseball player.
Not at all.
He's not into sports, really. He's the new kid in the neighborhood.
Has the goofiest looking hat out of the bunch.
Yeah. I identified with Smalls so much. But yeah, they get themselves in a pickle.
Oh, yeah, because Smalls takes stepdad's baseball that's in a case and then...
Signed by the Babe.
Yes.
The Sultan of SWAT. The Colossus of Clout.
And they, of course, hit it over the fence. And on the other side of the fence is a gigantic dog owned by one James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Who happens to be blind in this movie. Took a fastball upside the noggin.
But in true James Earl Jones fashion, absolutely steals the movie in like 2 minutes of screen time.
Quite
Wonderful.
literally.
Wonderful.
I mean, I probably relate the most to Benny Rodriguez.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Just
being
fast.
the neighborhood athlete that everyone adores. Surefire professional player.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could see it.
exactly.
You're an idiot.
But yeah, so I mean, it's a fun movie. I've watched it probably 100 times. It was on all the time when I was growing up. And although you can make the case it's a coming of age movie, I'm going to make a case it's a sports movie. It takes place around baseball.
I was an only child. And so my favorite movie of all time is Goonies. And I'll sit here and tell you it's not a perfect movie. It's not because it's such a great movie, but it hits me in the heart because I moved around a lot. And I, more than anything else, wanted to grow up with the same group of friends. Like, that appealed to me on such a level. And I think Sandlot would have been my movie if I was younger, if I was your age. But by the time this comes out, I'm 16, 17 years old. And I'm above it. I'm above it, even though I liked it. I'm kind of above it. But yeah, this is a great movie. Only a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's weird.
Some critics were born without a soul.
Evidently.
And only made $34.3 million on the box office.
Yeah. I mean, I would not have guessed it to be a huge box office hit. It's become like a cult classic for a older millennial, younger millennial generation.
So the weird thing about where it lands here, 1993 is right before the DVD boom. A couple years before the DVD boom. And that's when a lot of these movies that didn't do well at the box office, they're able to get seen more and more, and they become cult classics. And this is one of them.
Yeah. Love this movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Great movie. Wonderful soundtrack in that movie. Often overlooked, but wonderful soundtrack.
Yes.
I cannot hear the Ray Charles version of America without thinking of this movie. Just great. Great pick. Great pick. And I'm sad that I had to knock it off my list, but I'm glad you picked it. My silver medal winning sports movie, my second favorite sports movie. I'm also going to go to baseball, which is strange because I'm like you. Baseball is a distant third behind basketball and football for me.
Yeah.
I'm not super into baseball growing up. But what I recognize about baseball is what this movie portrays so well. And my movie is The Natural, starring Robert Redford. The Natural came out in 1984. On the way to a tryout with the Chicago Cubs, young baseball phenom Roy Hobbs is shot by the unstable Harriet Bird. After 16 years, Hobbs returns to pro baseball as a rookie for the last place New York Knights. Despite arguments with his manager, Pop Fisher, played by Wilford Brimley, Hobbs becomes one of the best players in the league, and the Knights start winning. But this upsets the judge, their owner, who wants Hobbs to lose games, not win.
You're telling me the diabetes guy?
That's right. And Wilford Brimley is awesome in this movie. He's so lovable as kind of like the cantankerous, grumpy manager who has got the heart of gold. Like, that's the best part about, he's perfect. Perfect. The role Wilford Brimley was born to play. Get out of here with our house. Don't come in here with that noise, or the Quaker oatmeal guy. He was born to play manager Pop Fisher in the 1984 movie, The Natural. What I love about The Natural is it takes place in a time, I think you're supposed to understand it takes place back in like the 20s. The 1920s, 1930s. And it depicts a time in baseball that's ruled by guys like Babe Ruth and who kind of appears in the movie early on, where our young Robert Redford, our young Roy Hobbs, gets the better of him as a pitcher. Outside, there's like a dare that happens, and the guy in the movie is the Whizzer or something like that. They don't use all the nicknames, but he's clearly a Babe-like guy. He's got women around him. He's large, and he's smoking cigars, and he's an established, obvious star of baseball. But what I love about this movie is it really plays on the mysticism of baseball, and in particular, the level of grandeur it had in American culture. Like, when you're watching this movie, baseball's not just a sport. Baseball is everything that James Earl Jones explains to you in Field of Dreams in that speech.
Yeah.
How America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers, but baseball has marked the time. That there's something about baseball as the American sport. And even as a kid who wasn't that interested in baseball, I understood that about baseball from movies like this that pay it such a grand respect. And this movie's wonderful because there's a spiritual aspect to this movie that you may not be aware of. Because Roy Hobbs, so the movie starts off, he's from Iowa or somewhere. He's from a rural area. He has a high school sweetheart, but he's a baseball phenom. He's destined for greatness. His dad dies of a heart attack when he's young, and he goes off as an 18-year-old to go follow his dream. And he ends up getting seduced, basically, by this psychotic woman who shoots him on the way to what is going to be his tryout, him making it. And is just gone. He's off the map for like 16 years or something, comes back as a veteran player. And the undertone to this movie, the parable of this movie, if you will, is God-given gifts versus earthly desires. What do we do with our God-given gifts? Do we use it in the way they're meant to be used, or do we use it to fuel and get our earthly desires? And the young Roy Hobbs falls victim, maybe unfairly. Like, he's 18. He's not wise. And he gets locked up with this just unimaginable scenario where he gets shot, and it takes away something from him. But what I love about this movie is it also says it's never too late, that he made this mistake. He's paid dearly for it. And then he comes back to the league. He gets to the league finally as an old man, an old rookie. And the half the movie is spent for him trying to convince this manager that he can play. And when it happens, when he finally gets in the game, because the manager's not even putting him in games, and he hits a home run, your heart sails. Like, you're just like, it's everything about a second chance that makes your heart just fly when someone gets that redemption shot and they take hold of it. It's just a wonderful movie, and it's all played with the majesty of baseball backdrop. And there's just moments in this movie that are absolute guaranteed goosebump moments on your arms. Does it every time when I watch it. Wonderful movie. Wonderful.
Like, you talking about that movie has like spurred like 3 baseball movies that I completely forgot about. There's so many sports movies. That was the difficult part about this one, is like the mood I'm in right now. The 3 I came up with, yeah, they're great. But tomorrow it might be something else.
Yeah, well, right. And I just had to go with these Miracle, The Natural, and what's going to be my favorite movie. I basically based it on the feeling they gave me.
Yeah.
And it's not that these other movies didn't give me feelings. Field of Dreams makes me cry at the end every time. But it's not because of the sports. It's because of the father-son moment.
Yeah.
Which I have that's all. I have scars there in that department. So it plays to me in that way. It's not a sports movie to me. When We Were Kings, it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful look at a real guy who happened to be an athlete. But yeah, these were the movies that made me feel this way, and in the sporting part.
Yeah.
So The Natural is my silver medalists. It's time to go to our gold medals.
Okay.
Where are we going with your gold medal winner?
So this gold medal winner like negated all their other sports movies. And I went with Rocky 4.
Rocky 4!
Sylvester Stallone negated Rocky 1 through 3, and
Champion of the Cold War.
Over the Top also got negated because of Rocky 4.
Over the Top's a terribly corny movie, but it's so fun to watch.
It is. But yes, Rocky 4, probably the sports movie I've watched the most. It's between that and Rocky 1.
Yeah, I've watched Rocky 4 a lot.
And so, Rocky 4, Rocky is fighting, and he's planning on retiring, and then, gosh darn it, Apollo Creed gets into a fight and
dies. And whose fault is that, Cody? It's Rocky's fault.
It is.
He doesn't throw the towel.
I yell
Apollo's
at him.
manager's like, throw the towel. Throw the towel.
I yell at Rocky every time.
Throw the towel.
Oh, yes.
The look, and Rocky's got that blank look on his face that he's so good at.
So, yes, like he should have thrown the towel. Apollo Creed dies because of Rocky. Rocky feels bad, and there's this behemoth of a man, Ivan Drago, a.k.a. Dolph Lundgren, who is an MIT grad. Did not know that.
Oh, yeah. Smart dude.
Super smart dude.
The Dolph. Yeah.
And super buff. Like, I wouldn't want to fight him. Evidently hospitalized Sylvester Stallone in the making of this movie.
That is true. Yeah.
And that makes this movie even better in my book. Because take that, Sylvester. You should have thrown in the towel.
Oh, my goodness.
But at the end of the day, my patriotic side wins out like Rocky wins because he takes down the Russian and avenges his friend's death.
Delivers maybe one of the best speeches in a sports movie ever.
Yes.
I've been noticing that a lot of you started to change. And if I can change and you can change, maybe everybody can change. Okay.
But
this movie made $300 million in 1985.
I feel like if I would have been alive in 1985, this movie would have made like $300 million in $20.
38% on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way.
That's probably about right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's all sorts of things wrong with it, but I can tell you young Dave shadowboxed his way out of the theater on this one. What a great movie. I'm looking through some headlines here. Dolph Lundgren doesn't remember hospitalizing Stallone at Rocky IV.
I would block it out too. Because that's just a natural consequence going against this guy.
Oh, man. It's hard to explain to people. Like, you love that movie even though you weren't alive then.
TNT and TBS would do Rocky marathons 1 through 5, and 5 never made sense to me.
Oh, no.
Because
it's terrible.
At that point, he's like a vegetable.
Yeah.
Essentially, walking around.
Well, he takes a lot of punishment.
He gets into like a street fight, and I'm like, what is going on here? And then I'm supposed to believe in Rocky Balboa that cognitively he can still fight at a world-class championship boxing level. No.
His strategy in Rocky IV appears to be, I'm just going to let him punch me.
It's a bad rope-a-dope.
It's not even a rope-a-dope, man. Like, because he's just taking punches full on in the face.
Yeah.
In the face. It's just not a good strategy. But that's the only part of Rocky V that sort of makes sense, that he would be damaged, that he would have some brain damage going on, given the fight sequences that happened in Rocky IV. But, it's hard to explain to people if you're younger that how 80s this movie is. It's so wonderfully 80s that when I watch it, it's just like a nice heaping slice of nostalgia. Like, you have the Cold War stuff, which is so big. I mean, this comes out around the time Red Dawn comes out. I mean, just everything about the 80s and the Cold War is present in this movie. It's got the robot maid.
Oh, yeah.
Randomly. It's got the hair. I hadn't seen this in a long time. Even Stallone's hair is like all feathered.
It is.
Oh, man. It's so wonderfully, deliciously 80s. Everything about this movie is.
So much red, white, and blue.
Yeah. Even like the two gloves, the American glove and the Russian glove hitting each other and exploding. I forgot that happened. That is a real thing that they put in this movie. Oh, my goodness.
Like Rocky 3 nearly made the list just on the fact that Mr. T and Hulk Hogan are in it.
Well, and Hulk Hogan is not Hulk Hogan. He's Thunder Lips.
Yeah.
And Mr. T is Clubber Lang. Yeah. Kills Mickey. But,
yeah.
Well, I mean, that makes it sound like he murdered Mickey, but he kind of did. It was his fault. It's not like, Ivan Drago killed Apollo.
Yeah, which he did.
Yeah.
Like,
But
Beat him to a pulp.
And so back to the 80s thing, he's on roids because, of course, he's the bad guy. He's Russian, so he's on roids. And that's been the thing, like, over all the Olympics, everyone suspected the Russians were doping. They're still doing it today.
Yes.
We're talking about it in the year 2022, and you're having Russian athletes getting caught doping.
Rocky IV. Basically a biography movie.
It's basically real life. It's all of it. All of it. All of it was true, as Han Solo would say. Oh, man, that's a great pick. If not for its quality of cinema, it's just wonderful nostalgia.
Yeah.
There was no feeling like the end of that movie gave me.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful. I have a similar pick in that nobody is going to look at this movie and say this is cinematic achievement, right? My gold medal movie is a movie from 1986 called Hoosiers, about failed college coach Norman Dale, played by Gene Hackman, played wonderfully by Gene Hackman, who gets a chance at redemption when he's hired to direct the basketball program at a high school in a tiny Indiana town. After teacher Barbara Hershey persuades star player Jimmy Chitwood to quit and focus on his long-neglected studies, Dale struggles to develop a winning team in the face of community criticism for his temper and his unconventional choice of assistant coach Shooter, played by Dennis Hopper, a notorious alcoholic. Hopper, I believe, wins an Academy Award for this role. Best supporting actor, if I remember right. Only made $28 million at the box office, 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. What I love about Hoosiers is early on, Gene Hackman, and there's a quote where they're starting to gel a little bit. They're still not winning games, but they're starting to gel. And you got to understand, they don't have very many kids. They've got like 6 kids playing basketball. It's a very rural team. You're supposed to understand. And he says something as like there's a montage of them getting better happening. And he says fundamentals, fundamentals, fundamentals. He's demanding like they pass 5 times before they shoot the ball. Just these really ultra conservative, old school basketball things. And that's what I love about this movie. Is this movie, again, as all the best sports movie are, there's an allegory going on here.
Yeah.
And in Hoosiers, it's this allegory for America that's kind of paying respect to what used to be. What made America great, essentially, is this old school grind and work ethic, right?
Yeah.
And it comes down to, so the spoiler, they make the championship game in Indiana. This is all based on a true story, by the way, that this small little high school, because Indiana was one of the last hangers on that didn't have classes based on size. Mm-hmm. And so their tournament was a tournament of imagine all the high schools in your state playing in the same tournament. It would be a real disadvantage to these small schools.
Yes.
So this little school in Indiana, coached by Gene Hackman in the movie, called Hickory, and then that wasn't the actual name of the high school in the real life version, plays a high school team from South Bend.
Oh.
And they win. And they do it doing like all these conservative, they're clearly out talented, right, by this team. But they're running backdoor cuts. They're just playing good fundamental basketball, bounce passes. And it's this allegory that the old way is still good, right? And basketball is a great place to tell a story like this, because basketball today is, if you hadn't watched basketball, like if you just had been in a coma for 30 years and the last thing you remember is like late 80s basketball, and you woke up now, it'd be like watching something completely different. You'd be like, what happened? It just changes. And so much of my problems with basketball is, and this, I feel old watching basketball sometimes, and football for that matter, because I'm like, why do they do all this stuff? Why don't more teams do the simple stuff that we know works? Like in football, look, we live in a rural area, a somewhat rural area in southeast Kansas, and every small high school around here runs the spread offense.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why? tighten that package up and run veer left and veer right. That's what works, bro.
That's not how we do it.
And that's the same way I feel like in basketball is basketball so predicated on like the pick and roll and one-on-ones now. And I'm just like, hey man, throw it to the post.
I'm going to pull up from half court and shoot 3.
Oh man. And one of the messages that this movie gives, and it's an allegory for this whole thing, is that these old school values that maybe we've lost, they still work. And that they still can be victorious. The other thing I love about this movie is Gene Hackman. There's reports that Gene Hackman didn't want to do this movie and still thinks of it poorly. He doesn't like to talk about it, which is weird because this is my favorite movie. This is my favorite role. Is so endearing as an imperfect human being. Like you essentially learn in the course of the movie that he was a promising college coach who punches one of his players and it all comes to a screeching halt, as you might expect.
Basically, Bobby Knight.
Yeah, because he's got a temper. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in this movie, I mean, the redemption of his character through these young boys. And it's basically referenced at the end that what they did for him was more than what he did for them. And the movie ends with all these quotes in the movie where he's coaching them. All these coaching lines come out. Fundamentals, 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 blah, blah, blah. This bounce pass. I want 5 passes. And then it pauses for a minute and it shows a team picture. And he says, I love you guys, which is something he says in the huddle right before the last shot of like the semifinal game. And it's just wonderful. It's everything you would ever want in a sports movie. And it's true. It's a true story.
So this movie is one I need to watch as an adult.
Oh man. Yeah.
Because for me, I guess this movie would be Remember the Titans. Because also
it's based in high school.
And based on true story. And like it was a must watch. But
interesting side note, if I can interject, I met Herman Boone.
What?
The actual coach Herman Boone, who Denzel Washington played in Remember the Titans. Nice dude.
Well, he seemed nice.
Yeah.
So like I have seen Hoosiers as a kid, but it was like when we would have a substitute teacher and we're going to watch a movie. And
those were good days.
It kind of drug.
Yeah.
But I was also a little hyperactive as a kid. So I need to go back and watch this movie.
In order to watch Hoosiers, you have to be able to shut off certain parts of your criticism. So it was made in 1986, but this is a low budget movie even for then. And it's made in a style that makes it seem older. Like when you're watching this movie, you'd think it's like a late 70s movie.
Yeah.
Early 80s at the most. And it's made intentionally with that style. And again, they're trying to play off of like this allegory of the old way. Can the old way still work?
Yes.
And when you put it up against the Goliath of American industrialism and how it keeps rolling on, can it still hold up? The agrarian. It's like, it really is like this allegory of agrarian versus assembly line.
The assembly line of South Bend, Indiana.
Yep. And well, I mean, I can't remember the actual story, but I think that there's kids on that South Bend team that go on to play college ball, like high profile college ball.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's absolutely this style of story. Like, yeah, something we kind of talked about with Miracle, that sometimes the unity of a team and this old way of doing things still wins out over talent and assembly line production.
Yeah.
And it's just a great film.
So the 3 baseball movies, because I didn't know what your gold medal movie was going to be based around, that I thought of was The Rookie, which is based on a real life story about an old guy.
The Quaid?
Yeah, starring the Dennis Quaid. And he actually gets to pitch in the
That's
majors.
a good film.
It
Love
is.
that movie. Yeah.
A League of Their Own. Mm-hmm. That was on TNT as well growing up. And it was hilarious, I thought.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Madonna.
There's no crying in baseball.
Yeah. Gina Davis. Yeah. Great movie.
And we didn't mention any of the major leagues.
Oh yeah. Major League. Well, we don't need to mention the sequels, but Major League is really a good movie.
Yes.
And it's got a lot of sports tropes. It's got the owner who wants the team to lose. And it's a bunch of misfits. You know, she stocks the team with misfits. But yeah, it's so funny. Such a good movie.
Yes.
And 2 only deserves mentioned because it has a part played by Randy Quaid, which is hilarious, where he's like disowns the team because they're underperforming, and he disowns them so much that he can't enjoy it when they turn things around.
Yeah.
Well, they'll lose in the playoffs.
We didn't mention Radio.
Radio, good flick, good movie.
And we didn't mention Bring It On.
Bring it on.
Or Bring It On
It
2.
has already been brought.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, that one slipped in my mind.
I don't know how. Is Drumline a sports movie? It's competitive drumming.
Nick Cannon thinks so.
Yeah.
You know, it's got some stuff in it. Yeah, I mean, there was several.
Like, there's
if
so
we were
many
talking
movies.
TV, I would include Friday Night Lights, the TV series.
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso is an amazing one. But yeah,
Coach.
we've talked so much about that. So many of it where sports is the backdrop.
Yeah.
But it's really not what it's about. Coach, wonderful television show in the 80s.
Yeah.
Craig T. Nelson. Yeah. Great. Bill Fagerbach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Patrick from SpongeBob.
Dick Van Dyke's brother. Who I can't remember his name. I'm sorry.
Something Van Dyke.
Yeah, really, we could go on and on. So tell us your favorites. Interact with us on our social media. I'm sure there's many we didn't talk about.
Oh, so many.
And it's not because we didn't enjoy them or like them. It's just this is really hard to do. We really needed a guest for this show.
Needed like 5 guests.
Yeah. We'll also, sometime in the weekend after this pod comes out, we'll put our lobby prompt on our social media as well, on Facebook and Twitter. Feel free to ask us a question. That helps us out a lot if we have questions to answer during our lobby segment. As you hear, these are real questions from real people who ask them. Ask us anything you want. You don't even have to ask us pop culture. You can ask something about us. We'll answer whatever.
Yeah.
Ask us whatever you would like, and we will endeavor to answer it the best we can.
You don't even know what my favorite movie snack is.
You don't even know.
Actually, I think we've discussed that. So
Nunchucked you. Okay, it's late. I think I'm getting delirious. Thank you so much, everybody who listens to the podcast. If you love our podcast, if you could do us a favor and go on to iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen, leave us a review, leave us a good rating. That helps the visibility of the podcast. We would love to find new people who would also love listening to this podcast. That would help us out to raise the exposure because there's things we want to do. We've got lots of ideas and plans, and so doing that only will help out your experience with Pop Culture Pastor and listening to the podcast and what other things we have planned on the horizon.
yeah.
So if you could do that, and yeah, have a good week, everybody. Thanks a lot.
See you in the next Pop Culture Pastor.